The Russian novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky once said the degree of civilization in a society is judged by entering its prisons. Last week's events and the country's response to it reveals some ugly truths, truths that this nation must face. As the security forces of this country continue to search for the remaining escapees, one thing remains apparent. One fact is undebatable. The time for prison reform is now. I'm speaking today with Wendell Jeffrey of Practical Christianity Ministries.
Yes.
According to him, he says if the nation had adopted some of the principles that he's already put into place in the United States and other nations, the events of Camp Street and even the events in the past could have been avoided.
Correct.
So, can you please tell me what are some of the things that, in your mind, that caused this?
One of the things that we had happening is we have a massive overcrowding problem in our facilities. All of our prisons are overcrowded. And they're overcrowded because what we're doing is we are bottlenecking the system. We are putting more people in prison, both repeat offenders and new offenders, and we don't have a plan in place to reduce the rate at which people are coming back to prison or coming to prison in the first place. So the system is being bloated, and then we don't have any programs to reduce the rate at which we'll come back. We don't have a rehabilitation program.
And so you're saying that these problems, they don't just stop at the jail itself. It goes beyond the jail?
Yes, because what happens is that you don't have a system in place where the guys come out from being incarcerated with any skill that allows them to not go back in. So they come back into the society, they become menaces to the society. The strategic plan for the Ghana Prison Service, the 2010-2020 strategic plan, says that you have 80% or more of the guys who are currently incarcerated have been in prison before. So you have a big problem right there, where people are coming back into the prison at a rapid rate while new ones are joining them. And so what you have to do is you have to get rid of guys using methods that are not best practice methods. Like you had the president saying, look, he is going to release guys for certain kinds of offenses. Well, that's his heart is in the right place, but these guys have been contaminated. They have developed criminologistic minds, and they have motifs that drive them, things that they learn in prison. So when you just let them go without allowing them to be transitioned back into society, you create problems beyond the prison walls.
And so I'm pretty sure, aside from the cost to businesses and the other things that happen when they go and commit these crimes, I'm pretty sure it costs the state a lot of money just even to house these people.
Well, a precursor Google search would tell you that it costs the government of Guyana about $400,000 a year to keep one prisoner. $400,000 a year. When you multiply that by the about 23,000 people you have, you see what's happening there. And that $400,000 is not, that is operational costs. That is not for vehicles, it's not to build prisons or any of the unforeseen cost spending. That is the average cost of paying the prison wardens, buying the food and so on. So you really bloating a system, and you're spending a lot of money, when if you had systems in place to rehabilitate the guys and girls, you would not have to spend that kind of money.
And so can you tell me a little bit about your rehabilitation system?
Well, what we have developed over the years, and I've been in prison rehabilitation as a criminologist and a prison chaplain now for many years. What we've done is we have found out that there are basically 5 what we call criminogenic needs of to reduce the rate at which guys will go back to prison. And I put it into an acronym, I call it VESS, VHESS. So the first thing is the V, the vocational training. They need to come out of prison with a vocational skill. Then they need housing. And what we suggest is that when they come out, they need somewhere to go that is not the same environment from which they came, that will provide that factor for them to get back involved in the criminal activity. So they need housing, some kind of transitional housing. And the E is education. We want to find out where they are academically, because we know that if you get them to another level academically, it reduces the rate at which they come back to prison. So if they couldn't spell rat, you get them spelling rat. And if they were at another level where they were pre-college or something, you get them ready to enter college. So that's the E. So we have the vocational, we have the housing, we have the education. Then the first S is substance abuse. Most of your inmates are addicted to something. As a pastor, alcohol is an addiction, tobacco smoking is addiction. But beyond that, we got the illegal substances, your marijuana, your crack cocaine, and so on. So what we do is we treat for any addiction that the offender has while they're incarcerated, so that we reduce the likelihood of their dependency, which catapults them into behaviors that would now bring them back into prison. So we deal with the substance abuse. And then the final S is the spiritual formation. What we have found is that people who are arrested and charged for crimes were not practicing the religion of choice at the time they were arrested. So if I say I'm a Muslim and they catch me snatching a lady's purse, it's because I wasn't going to my masjid. If I'm a Hindu, I wasn't going to my temples. If I'm a Christian, I wasn't going to church. Well, that is what we found. So one of the things you do as a part of the rehabilitative process is to get the guys back to the religion of their choice. So in the rehabilitation center, you have the imams coming, the pandits coming, the pastors, the priests, and so on, that the individual chooses. So this is not something that is being forced on them. So if you like a pastor or imam, you recommend and you make an arrangement, and that person comes to meet with you, and so on. So if you put those criminogenic needs as a holistic package, then you reduce the rate at which guys and girls come back into prison. And that is what we do.
And so that, from what I've read, that this has been successful in the state of Indiana. So can you tell us, what was the size of the prison population that you had worked with at the time?
Well, Judge, I'm glad you asked, because my coming back to Guyana, one of the things that I was happy about is when I found out that at any one time, you've only have about between 22 and 2,500 people locked up in our 6 penal institutions. We have mostly 5. The 6th is the for the children. So in coming back to Guyana, with such a small amount of incarcerated folks, one of the prisons I dealt with had 4,000 men, the Westville Correctional Facility, almost twice the amount in one prison that we have in all of Guyana. So you understand the excitement that if we could reduce the rate at which these guys are coming back to prison, then you don't have an overcrowding. You have more room to deal with the guys that it pertains to pre-release rehabilitation and then the post-release rehabilitation. So it is, while it is an endemic and systemic problem now, it could change in the very near future if the systems are put in place to make for that.
So with a little bit of investment and a little bit of tweaking of the systems and the infrastructure that we have today, we can essentially avoid almost all of the problems and the criminality that this system currently creates.
Correct, because if you look at there was a commission of inquiry that happened last year after the guys died in the fire. But before that, this administration and the last administration were working on the 2010-2020 strategic plan. And if you look at the plan says that upwards of 80% of the guys in prison were there before. So if you have a rehabilitation program that reduces the rate at which guys come back to prison, then you can cut, in 3 to 5 years, you can cut your prison population size in half, and then use the guys who have been rehabilitated to go back into your communities, your Tiger Bay, your West, East and West Ramville, your All Boys Town, and they can go now, having been rehabilitated as ex-offenders, and work with reducing the rate of new crimes and new criminals. So it's very doable. It's not a pie in the sky, but it has not been tried, and it has been in Guyana, but it's the best practice outside of Guyana.
So it sounds like it's the practical thing to do.
Well, that's practical Christianity. That's what we do.
All right. Well, thank you for speaking with us. It's very interesting stuff, and we hope that you can definitely come in again and definitely speak a little bit more on this subject.
My pleasure.